Geography and You presents.
Hello and welcome to the Building Educated India, a GNY live podcast series where we engage with experts, policymakers, and thought leaders to critically examine India's evolving education landscape. I'm your host, Hiteshika. Joining me today is our discussant, Dr. Sulagna Chattopadhyay, Editor in Chief, Geography and You, and our guest, Professor Tarun Kanti Naskar, General Secretary of All India Save Education Committee and former MLA from West Bengal. With his deep experience in education policy, he will explain why AISEC has consistently opposed NEP, what their alternative envisions, and what's truly at stake for students, educators across the country. In today's episode, we are taking a hard look at the National Education Policy 2020, not just its promises, but also the intense opposition it has faced. While the NEP has been praised for its sweeping reforms, critics argue that it centralizes control, threatens federalism, and may deepen inequalities rather than bridge them. Among its strongest opponents is the All India Save Education Committee, which has gone a step further to propose an alternative, the People's Alternative Education Policy. With that, I am eager to pass the conversation over to Dr. Shulagna Chattopadhyay.
Thank you, Hiteshika, for your introduction, and I welcome Mr. Tarun Kanti Nashkar to today's podcast.
Thank you.
So now we've heard a little bit about you, and our listeners would surely want to know, most importantly, like why are you opposing the national education policy, and you have something called the People's Alternative Education Policy, and how is it better? And what is better about that?
The issue is the mission of education in our country and throughout the world. It should be secular, democratic, and scientific education for all. This is the mission, this is the objective for which our national leaders during the Renaissance movement, they fought for this objective. Starting from Ishwarchandra Vidyasagar, Ram Mohan Rai, Phule, and all others, they fought for this. And they had that expectation that after freedom, after national government takes power, then the education will be free for all, one aspect. And another aspect is that it should be secular, it should be democratic, and it should be scientific. But we see that after independence, whatever education policies or education commissions were instituted, all the education policies gradually they tried to squeeze the scope of education. This is the thing. So education for all, that particular purpose has been shattered. And also the more important thing is the secular aspect of education. That means ours is a democratic country. And in this country, the education that is given by, that is bestowed by the government educational institutions, government funded educational institutions, that should not promote any particular religion. Religion is a personal affair, and education, and that also from the platform of government education system, that should not promote any particular religion. So the education should be free from any religion, religious utilities. So this is the secular aspect of education. And another one is the democratic aspect of education, that is the education should be governed by the persons who are associated with education, that is teachers, academicians, students, scholars. They should govern. They should take the issues, that means what will be the examination, what will be the course curriculum, all these things. They should decide. What will be the topic of research, they should decide. And the government's duty is to fund the education. So this is the democratic concept of education. And the other most important aspect is scientific education. That is, education should be such that there should be scientific temper to be developed in students' mind. So that is critical thinking, the logical bent of mind. All these things should be developed in students' mind, learners' mind. So these are the aspects, very important aspects, and we think that this education policy, that is NEP 2020, they just opposing all these basic tenets of education, basic purposes of education. That is why we are against this policy, and we are not only opposing this policy, we are in the process of aiming a people's alternative education policy, and we are framing up that, and that will be now it is in a draft stage, and we will seek opinion of the people throughout the country, seek opinion from the academicians. We will circulate the draft, and we will invite their opinions, and ultimately this will be placed. We are fixed up that this will be placed in a people's parliament in December 2025, and then it will be finalized. Why people's parliament? Because this education policy was never discussed, was never placed in two houses of the parliament, and the members of the parliament, they they couldn't give any thought to it. So we are our objective is to place it in a people's parliament, and that will be a people's alternative education policy.
But just to take this a little forward, you have questioned the three tenets. Like, you've said there is certain communities, a certain religion. You've talked about science education, and you've talked about democratic or democratization of education. So, what is it that you find that has been challenged in the NEP? I mean, what is it? Can you give us specific examples? For example, that this has happened, and that is what is challenged this tenet that we follow.
That is, let's say, the democratic education. Democratic education means education should be governed by the academicians. And before this NEP 2020, there was a draft NEP 2020, NEP 2019, DNEP. We call it DNEP. That was in 2019. And this was circulated, and from stakeholders, they tried to seek opinion of the stakeholders. But ultimately, we find that in the policy statement, they have taken opinions of some organizations which belong to the Sangh Parivar, or associated with the ruling dispensation. The student organizations, teachers organizations, they have taken opinion of these organizations. So this is not a democratic education, and also there are the stakes of the states. Education is in the concurrent list, you know, and before the emergency, it was in the state list. So with this taking the scope of emergency, they have taken it to the concurrent list, and concurrent list means ultimately it is in the central list. The government is not, the central government is not taking opinion of the states. And just a few days back, just 1 month back, they issued a draft UGC regulation 2025, and that UGC regulation is a document for complete centralization of education, and the entire higher education field, be it central universities or state universities, all will go under the control of central government. Then what will be the duties of the state government? What is the meaning of concurrent list? What is the meaning of federalism? All these things are there. There is the basic concept of federalism, but they are just trampling all these issues.
So that was my next question to you, actually, that education is part of the concurrent list, and states have their own education boards as such. Not really higher education right now. I will come to higher education again after this, but state have their own boards, like Bihar board, and Calcutta University has its board, and everybody has its own board which can be followed, and if they don't really believe in a certain imposition, say, they can follow their own board. Wouldn't that, I mean, you are saying that it is autocratic in a certain way, but wouldn't it allow the state boards to function or work differently and maybe even strengthen their own education boards? Is it possible? Is there a possibility that could happen?
Since it is in school education is in the state list, they can do it. But the issue is, you just see the Right to Education Act 2009. That Right to Education Act directly affects the state government, directly affects the state education. And you see that they have just abolished they have introduced no detention policy in all states. They never took opinion of the states. They introduced it, and you just see the different survey reports, and there you will find that students are learning nothing. They are being admitted in class 1. They are being promoted to ultimately class 9, and they are learning nothing. And even a class 6 students, he cannot solve a summation or subtraction problem which is there in class 2 or class 1. He cannot do that. One class 8 student, he cannot even read the text of class 5 literature. So this is the thing what is happening.
But
So,
isn't this a problem of teaching rather than the students, of free education or extending RTE to, don't you think that there should be something for the teachers rather than taking this away as a privilege?
No, the teachers, that means due to RT, since there is no proper evaluation system, and students will be admitted and they will automatically be promoted. So teachers have no urge to teach. They don't feel. This is the situation. And you also agree with me that examination at the end, ultimately not the examination of the students only, it is the examination of the teachers also.
Yes.
Because they will be examined that how far they could teach their students. That is also an examination. So if there is no proper evaluation system, if there is no proper examination, if there is no pass-fail system, so teachers won't feel any urge to teach their students. So this is the situation happening. So what is the benefit of this concurrent list? You were talking of state board. Yes, state board is there, but that is for school education. Still they can do something, but these are the interventions from the center. This is the problem before us.
But tell me something, all these coveted examinations that we have, all of these IITs and etc., whatever, the whole gamut of them, from law to any discipline that you can talk of, we have these examinations. So to have a centralized system, don't you think that it will help to understand, because everybody will be on the same kind of syllabus, it will be a single syllabus for the entire country. At least the students are on the same page regarding what they have to study. So don't you think it's in a way it's a good idea? No?
You see that ours is a diverse country. So big a country, so much diversification. That means there is diversification in language, in food habit, in religion. There are so many, and there is regional aspect. All these things are there, and this is the beauty. This is the basis of unity unity in diversity. There is a term, unity in diversity. If you try to centralize it, if you cast it on the same what is the meaning of that? Same cast. If you forge it in the same manner, then what will be the fate of this diversity? And it is not unity. And you see that on the basis of imposition of a particular language, so many things are happening throughout the country. This Hindi, I am not against Hindi. I am in favor of Hindi, but I am against imposing any language. So one nation, one religion, one election, all these things, one language, there will be one. So if this one, then what will be the, is it good for our unity? It is not good for our unity. And you just see, I like to point out one thing, that after this centralization, that means before a few years back, the medical education, that means the examination, the admission to medical colleges, that was controlled by states, and they designed their own process of admission, how to admit their students. Now there is NEET. And what is the fate of the NEET now? The fate of the NEET is not. I am not only mentioning the corruption. I am talking of that due to the NEET, due to this centralization, there is a coaching mafia.
Yes.
And due to this coaching mafia, there are all other negative aspects. But due to this coaching mafia, the meritorious students, if he doesn't have money, if his parents doesn't have money, cannot join in medical education, cannot join in engineering education. So this is the situation. So this is the effect of the centralization, and we are against this centralization. Every state should be allowed to take their design their policy, how they will get their students admitted. Every university, there is CUET, CUET.
Yeah, they've introduced
This CUET means there will be one NTA, National Testing Agency. That NTA will conduct CUET, and this CUET will decide what type of students will be admitted in Calcutta University, what will be in Jawaharlal Nehru University, and what will be in Chennai University. So this cannot be done. There are diversities, and also there is autonomy of educational institutions, autonomy of teachers, autonomy of departments, autonomy of educational institutions. So one particular university that should decide whom they will
as their
admit,
students,
whom they will admit,
yes,
what
because
type of students. This is an academic issue. You think this is an academic issue? The taking admission test is a completely an academic issue, and this belongs to the autonomy of the university. So if you infringe upon, then there will be a problem, and this problem is going on. Not only this corruption, the corruption is an issue, but the main issue is that the meritorious students belonging to the marginalized section of the people, they can't get admitted. This is the situation.
You made a very interesting observation about how institutional organization, like for example Jawaharlal Nehru University or a particular any other institute, would have a certain focus in what kind of students they are looking for, what kind of thinking they are looking for. You're looking for critical thinking, or what is it that they're testing for really. And that when it becomes ubiquitous, everybody is doing the same thing, the focus of the organization also loosens in a sense. You don't have what they're looking for in students to to come about and to build the Indian society. I get that, but I just want to talk about this Higher Education Commission of India, which is the HECI, HECI. So that is going to be in place of UGC and AICTE and NCTE. So what is your view on this? Is it similar? What do you feel that, because this kind of higher education.
I have got your point. You see, they have placed the HECI bill in the parliament,
Yes.
and the HECI bill was passed. The HECI bill was placed to replace UGC. Okay. UGC means University Grants Commission. Grants. There is a term, grants. So UGC was established by Parliament Act, and for giving grant to the universities, and some standard of universities, they should guide for that standardization. But these grants is now removed. The term G, the letter G is now removed from UGC, and they are going to establish HECI. That means HECI has no role to give a grant. You just see, UGC has forgotten to give grant. You know that in last financial year, 61% UGC grant has been cut. You know it.
Yeah.
And UGC is giving no fund. No fund. Really, to be honest, that UGC is giving no fund to any university, not to central university, not to state university. This is the position of UGC. So they are ashamed of that the G should be deleted, and that is why they are replacing UGC by HECI. And HECI means HECI will be made for only control. Now UGC is there, UGC is controlling. This UGC draft regulation, you have seen it, UGC draft regulation. And in the UGC draft regulation, what they are going to do? To recruit the vice chancellors. To recruit the vice chancellor, it will be only at the behest of the central government. There will be no role of state governments. And also, the vice chancellors will be not only vice chancellors should be teachers, and the qualification of the vice chancellor should be at least 10-year professors in university level. This was the qualification. Now they will appoint one IS officer, one IPS officer, or anyone from the industry to be to the post of the vice chancellor. Do you admit that they will function as the vice chancellor? They will discharge the role of the vice chancellor. Vice chancellor is the academic head, academic leader of the university. So if the academic leader is replaced by an administrative officer, by an IPS officer, what will be the fate of the university? Just see. And not only the qualification of the vice chancellors, they are diluted. They are diluted the qualification of the professors even. That suppose you have done, you just think of yourself, you have done a subject, you have undergone a subject in 4-year UG program. Now it is a 4-year course, 4-year UG program. And you have done postgraduate in the same subject. Say it is economics. You have done PG, UG in economics, PG in economics. Now you have applied, you have done your PhD in a completely different course. And now it is possible. Now, PhD is a specialized issue, so you can do PhD in completely different subject. Now, can you imagine that you will be teacher of that particular area which has no link with economics? Can you discharge the role of a teacher in UG or PG level?
No,
So these they are going.
That would be
These they are
disastrous.
going. What will be the fate of the university education, the higher education? So this is the situation, and UGC is going. Through UGC, they are doing this. UGC has now become a post office for the proclamation of the orders of central governments. This is the position. So what will be the entire higher education system will be shattered. And think that in this draft regulation, they have mentioned that all the universities should amend their acts and statutes accordingly by a period of time. They have given a period of time by some months. And if they fail to do it, then the threat is that those will not be termed as university. There are two UGC provisions. One is 12B, one is 2B and 12B, 12A and 2B. By these two provisions of the UGC Act, one university is cannot be called a fake university. It is an university, and they all will be fake university if they don't amend their acts and statutes according to the draft UGC regulation. Can you think that any UGC regulation can do it? One university is established by the legislation of their particular state. And by one stroke, can you just debar them from being a university? Is it possible? And they are going to do it. They are doing this.
I know. I mean, I just want to take this again. I mean, from the UGC to this National Research Foundation, another body that I want to know a little bit from you. That see, I mean, on the face of it, it seems like there's a lot of overlap in research. Actually, we see that many repetitive work is being done by various universities. But would it really free up the resource? Like you said, UGC grant, they're not even giving any grants. But do you think that NRF, which is now going to be headed by the PM, so there'll be, obviously, we're hoping that some agenda which we would need the country to do. For example, we are working in climate change. So maybe something that will really address coastal vulnerable communities or something like that, which would lead to research for solutions. So obviously, we hope that something like that would come about. But what is, in your view, what
Uh,
is the NRF?
My point is, first of all, I like to ask you, can you name any country where there is a research foundation and at the helms of that there is prime minister? Can you name any country in the world? There is none. So prime minister, whatever power he has, whatever merit he has separate duty. He has separate duty to discharge. He should not be at the helms of the National Research Foundation. This is one thing. So there are so many granting agencies like ICAR, UGC, all these things are there. Now, in place of that, replacing all that, they are going to found this NRF. Now, what will be the fate of the students? One student go to ICAR, fails that, he can go to the DBT. If he fails there, he can go to another organization. Now, if he fails to get a grant, research grant from NRF, then his fate will be completely doomed. This is one. Another thing is, this NRF has given some money. Is it? This NRF hasn't any money. Only privatization. And in the last budget, you have seen that 1 crore, 1 lakh crore rupees has been given for research. Okay, but all these are by loan. The private agencies loan for 50%, 50 years loan they will be given.
Okay.
So government is not giving any fund. Government is not giving any fund. So even if there is a NRF, that means research foundation, but government is not giving any fund. More than 70% fund will be given by the private agencies.
No, but this is a norm. But this is a norm in all countries as well, where there is endowment. So endowment it happens in scientific research that there are large amount of endowments. So why do you think?
Maybe, but if it is mainly dependent on the private agencies, then fundamental research. Niels Bohr would not have been there. Would not have been there if there was NRF. This is my point. Because Niels Bohr had to go through fundamental research.
Yes.
So this is the thing. So fundamental research would not have been will not be promoted. There will be no fundamental research. All researches will be guided by the external agency and the funding agency like the industrial houses. So there will be no fundamental research. So this is the problem behind that.
Yeah, I understand. So just give me your concluding ideas about higher education, because I think we have talked a lot about higher education, and I think I want to really understand this from you, that we believe in second chances, because what happens is when you are in class 10th or 12th, you really don't know what you want to do later on. I mean, most children don't understand. But it's only after 12th, when you go into specialized kind of learning, understanding, you feel you like something, and higher education becomes very important, because a lot of us bloom later. We don't bloom, it's almost like college is over and it comes as, learning becomes exciting after a point. So here, higher education role in India, particularly, I would say, because it opens up to children later. In that context, what do you think would be the fate of higher education?
The basic higher education, you just see the basic higher education, the objective of basic higher education has been lost, and there is what they are telling, the 4-year undergraduate program means this is a multi disciplinary course. The multidisciplinary course they are introducing. In the name of multidisciplinary course, what is they are doing? That means, say, physics is the major subject. Then with the major subject, there, if you take physics in as a major subject, then you must have to go for chemistry or mathematics, like that. But in this multidisciplinary system, what they are going to introduce, with physics you can take fashion design, you can take philosophy.
Yes.
So this is the system in the name of multidisciplinary. So in the higher education, students will learn nothing. There will be no comprehensive knowledge. This is going to happen. No comprehensive knowledge developed. This is the point.
That is
So
very, very startling.
Higher education, you think that they have copied it from United States. This 4-year UG program, the multidisciplinary program, the multiple NT exist, all these issues, they have copied it from United States, and they didn't think that whether that is fit for our country, for our purpose. The infrastructure considerations are there, that whether this 4-year course can be applicable here. You just see that in 3-year course there is no infrastructure, there is teacher crisis, and if it is a 4-year course, so one more year, more teachers, more infrastructure, more laboratory, but government is giving nothing. This is the situation. So how this 4-year program, that is the, you are talking of the higher education, how this higher education will continue.
Contradictions are there. So that kind of brings us to the end of our conversation, Mr. Naskar. But there is so much more. I mean, you have enlightened us about many things, and we hope to, get this across to a lot of listeners, and hoping that they come back with queries and more for us to talk about, and hoping to see you again soon in another podcast. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Naskar. And Hiteshika, I will ask you to kindly close it for us.
Thank you to Dr. Chattopadhyay for guiding the conversation, and to Professor Tarun Kanti Naskar for breaking down the complexities of the NEP 2020 and its alternatives. Today we have explored not just policies, but the real impact they have on students, teachers, and the future of education in India. The conversation doesn't end here. Education is an evolving space, and your thoughts matter. Do you think NEP is a step in the right direction, or does it raise more concerns than solutions? Share your views with us on our social media, and if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit follow and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube. Stay connected with us on our Instagram. Also, if you want to dive deeper in today's conversation, check out our blog post on www.geographynu.com, where we break today's discussion with additional resources and insights. We'll be back soon with more conversations, more experts, more questions that matter. Until then, I'm Hiteshika, and this is Building Educated India, because when we educate, we empower. Stay curious, stay engaged, and see you in the next episode.